Hi players, bonjour from Geneva, my name is Asafish and welcome to Board Game Co. Today we're going to have a how to play for Dragon Eclipse that was published by Awaken Realms. If you like what you see or learn something new, feel free to check out the other content that I have over on my channel Easy Board Games. Ready to see how it goes? Let's get to it. Alright guys, so let's dive in right into it and understand what Dragon Eclipse is all about. Now basically in this game we have a certain game order that we're going to resolve phase by phase, of course, starting with number 1, that is before the scenario. So there are a few steps that we can take in order to prepare to run a scenario. Then we're going to have number 2, playing the scenario, that is the meat and bones of Dragon Eclipse, where we're going to have adventure and some combat. And after that we're going to have number 3, that is after the scenario, unlocking new components and saving the game. Now, I don't want to dive into every single element that we have over here because I think it's relatively simple to understand, but let's talk about the main things that we have in this game, starting with exploring the world map. Now, while you're going to start playing, it's going to be directly from number 2, playing the scenario. We're going to dive right into it, but after the first scenario, we're going to unveil actually the world map, which is what you can see over here with this card holder. So they're going to tell us that we need to put into this card holder a few cards. Those are, of course, different regions that we can explore in the future or already explored. In our case, I've taken this card right over here, card number 1, and already flipped it to the explored side. Now, I'm saying this because on the other side that there is, so let me take it from here and show you. On the other side, we have the same thing, that is the same card just as an unexplored card. In any case, when we have something like this, they're going to direct us to a specific text that we have in the adventure journal. So for example, they're going to tell us to place this card right over here. We just finished the first scenario. And then they're going to tell us to take another one and place it over here, again, just for the example. And this is actually a non-explored region. So in this case, we can either choose to resolve the text that we have over here in the already explored area, or move on to another area and go to this specific text B0 and see what they're going to tell us to resolve. Now, usually when we're going to a new scenario, to a location that we haven't explored yet, they're going to tell us to read a few things. They're going to introduce us to the new scenario and going to give us some hints. Then we'll be able to think if we really want to start the scenario or actually do something else before starting it. And after that, we'll need to choose our Mystlings to go with. Now, at the beginning, we're going to have actually a choice that depends if you're playing with 1 Mystling or 2, or also, of course, if you're 1 player or 2 players. But at the beginning of the game, we'll be able to choose between the young Emberling or young Iceling. So let's understand what those Mystling actually consist. In general, each Mystling consists of a basic 3 cards that we can see right over here. The first one is the stats card, and we can see the portrait of our Mystling. We can see to which element it belongs. And also we have over here a few things that we're going to see better when we're going to talk about combat. Then we have another card, as you can see right over here in the middle. Those are some bonus actions that we'll be able to take during combat. Those are more universal bonus actions. That means that every Mystling will be able to take it. And also another elemental bonus action that correspond to a specific element, just like we have seen over here. As you can see, those symbols match. And the last card that we have is a special ability bonus action that is actually something that belongs to our specific Mystling. As you can see at the top right corner of the card, it says over here young Iceling, so you can understand that it belongs only to this Mystling. This card will be able to use also, as you guessed it already, during a combat. We'll be able to spend some power markers. As you can see, those are what we have over here, but don't worry about it. We're going to talk about it a little bit later during the combat. Now, on top of that, we're going to have actually a starting deck of action cards. We're going to have 2 types of cards. One type of card is actually a starting card. That is something quite basic that we're going to receive with our Mystling. And if you're playing with 2 Mystlings, then each one is going to receive basically the same starting cards. And also we're going to have cards that are more unique to our element and to our Mystling. Now, in general, what I've explained right now is only relevant actually to the first scenario, how we're going to start the game, but later we'll be able actually to build our own deck with some cards that we're going to acquire and some booster cards. So basically, when we're going to finish a scenario or at some points of the game, I don't want to again spoil too much for you, we're going to be told to take a booster pack. So we're going to draw one kind of randomly. Those are some booster decks that we have constructed when we unpack the game. If you have the special edition, then those are pre-packed actually cards that you're going to receive with your edition. And inside we're going to have some cards. Again, guys, really, I don't want to spoil this too much. We're going to have here different cards that with them we'll be able to construct our decks before actually starting the scenario and basically upgrade the action cards that we have over here in order to have more powerful cards that we'll be able to use when we're going to be involved in combat. After the first scenario, when we'll be able actually to construct our deck, there are a few conditions or a few restrictions to how you can actually build your deck. So let's talk about it for a few seconds. First of all, we'll need to take all the cards that are situated behind the unlocked cards divider and all the Mystling cards of the Mystling that we have chosen for the scenario. Again, it's not really relevant for the first scenario, but for later on. First of all, a deck can consist only of action cards. In case it wasn't, of course, obvious, we'll only be able to use action cards that we can see for a few examples over here. The number of action cards cannot exceed 16 action cards, and we need to have the minimum of 3 and maximum of 6 Mystling specific action cards matching the chosen Mystling. So again, if we're talking about the first deck that we're going to have, for example, with Young Iceling, we can see that we have, again, those cards that on the top right corner of the card, we're going to have the name of that Mystling. So in this deck, it's going to be super simple. We're only going to have 6 of these cards. A deck can have only 1 legendary card. And by the way, all of these terms of legendary, ultra rare, rare, and so on are actually color and symbol coded, as we can see on page 7 of the rulebook. So over here, if we're looking at the bottom of the card over here, we can see that we have this kind of pink icon, and that is a Mystling specific card. So now moving on, a deck can only have 1 legendary card. The next thing is that a deck cannot contain cards that don't match the element of the chosen Mystling. What does it mean? That sometimes we're going to take from a booster pack some cards that are not necessarily only going to match the Mystling that we have, like the element symbol of the Mystling that we have. With the Young Iceling, we'll not be able to take, for example, something with the fire element. Now, we do have here a small exception, and that is, and I'm taking this example directly from the rulebook, if our Mystling has some sort of a subcategory. When we're looking over here at the Young Bulb Mystling, this symbol indicates to which element this Mystling belongs to, and also we can see that we have over here a small subcategory for this Mystling, but pay attention to the number that is adjacent to this symbol. That means that we cannot exceed 2 cards of that specific element. So we'll be able to add cards from a different element, right, from a subcategory, but no more than the number that is specified right over here. Now, a big part of this game is the exploration in different locations. This is the first location that you're going to come across when playing the first scenario in the campaign. Again, don't worry, we're not going to have here any kind of spoilers, but let's see how does it go. So the first thing that you will be instructed to do is to take this time token that we have right over here and place it on one of the numbers. So let's say that for now it's going to be on number 3. On top of that, they're going to tell you to take a certain secret and place it right over here. So again, let's take the first card that we have, that is secret number 1, and we're going to place it face down just like this. Now pay attention that we have 2 sides to this token over here. One of them is green or blue, the other one is red, and that is going to give you a certain indication of what happens when this token reaches over here to the secret. When it's on the red color, most of the time it means that the current event that is the secret is going to end the exploration, and when it's on the other side, this one, most of the time it's going to say that something is going to change, but it's not going to end your exploration. Now this time token basically is going to symbol for us how much time is going to pass, because some of the things that we're going to do over here in the exploration are going to take time. It can be waiting for someone, talking to someone, and so on. When you're doing the exploration, basically you will need to choose one of the texts that we have over here, for example A10, then you're going to go to the adventure journal and you're going to read that part, and that's going to give you a few options. When we're going to see this symbol, it means that if this token is not yet on the lowest position, we're simply going to take it and push it one step down. If this token is already at the lowest place, what we're simply going to do is take it and push it onto the event card. If the time token is already situated on the event card, and again we have this symbol, we're simply going to ignore that time progression. Now, whenever one of the texts is going to instruct us to continue the exploration and the time token is already situated on the event card, what we'll need to do is to discard the time token and flip and resolve the event card. So again, we said no spoilers, but what you're going to do is to flip it to the other side and see what the text over here is going to instruct you to do. Another aspect that we have over here is the A and B tokens that will be instructed to place on some positions on this map. Now, basically what these tokens are going to do is to help us track whatever decisions we took during the exploration. So for example, if we did something and that tells us to put token A in slot number 4, for example, then you guessed it, we're going to take this token and place it right over here. The third aspect that we have over here is lock or unlock scripts. Sometimes we're going to do something that is going to lock a specific script for us. What we'll need to do is to take this universal marker and just place it on top of it so we know that we cannot access that specific script. Later, of course, we can do something else that is going to unlock it. That means that we're simply going to take this universal marker and discard it from the map. The last aspect that we have, not only over here in this exploration, sometimes it's going to be in different places, but that is doing tests. In order to do a test, we'll need to use the item deck that we have right over here. So every time that you need to do a test, we're going to first of all look at the table of the test that we need to perform. Let's take the test that we have in the rulebook as an example. Then we'll need to give a good shuffle to the item deck and we're going to start our test. The first thing that we'll need to do is to draw the first card that we have over here and reveal it. The only thing that is interesting for us in this test are actually the two things that we have over here. That is the number that we can see at the top left corner of the card and also this eye symbol. Every time that you have taken one of the cards, you need to decide if you want to continue the test or you're going to stop right over here. So it's kind of push your luck mechanism that we have in this game. Now, when you're looking at the table, we have a few things that we need to pay attention to. First of all, the different outcomes, and it's totally fine to check out what are the outcomes that we're going to have. If we're looking at the table example again that we have in the rulebook, we can see that we have 4 different outcomes. If we're going to have 5 or less, then we're going to actually pass some time. That means that we're going to have less time to explore whichever locations were situated, but we are going to receive secret number 2 and go to a specific script. Then we have number 6 that is going to be pretty much the same but without the time passing, so that is a bit more positive. And number 7 is the best outcome that we can have because on top of what we had on number 6, we're going to receive an item as well. 8 or more means basically the time passed and nothing happened, so that is the worst case that we're going to have in this specific test. So obviously, since we want to try and do something better, we're going to continue draw more cards. So we're going to draw a second card and we have over here number 1. So far we have 2. Still not enough for us. Let's draw another one. Again, we have here number 1. So in total now we have 3. We decide to continue. So we're going to draw another one. And now we see that we have a number 2. So we have 5 at the moment. Let's draw another one, see what's going to happen. And we have 2 more. So that means that we have right now 7. 7 is actually the best outcome that we could have hoped for, right? That is what we've said before, that we're going to receive an item as well. So right now we can decide to stop the test and actually resolve the effect. But let's say just for the example that we actually would have drawn this card right over here that has the number 3. Right now we have 8. So 8 is the worst outcome that we could have hoped for. And on top of that, when we're finishing the test, take a look at what we can see at the top of the table, something that says at the end of the test, if you have at least 2 eyes, then time passes. So unfortunately, since we do have these 2 icons right over here, we have 2 eyes, time is going to pass and we're going to simply take this token and push it 1 step down, just like we've talked about before. Sometimes we're going to have some items that are going to help us. So for example, if we're looking at this card right over here, that is called Glazed Nuts. During the test, we can get rid of this card, that means discard it, in order to discard the card that we just drew. So if we're not happy with this outcome, if we do have this item in our possession, we can discard it. Then we're going to take this card and discard it as well, and then we're going to take another card. In our case, we have 5 plus 2, that is 7. That is again the best outcome that we could have hoped for. Now, sometimes in tests, it will be possible for us to actually use some equipment cards that we have acquired during our journey. Pay attention that it must be stated on the test table itself in order for us to use it. So sometimes during a test, they're going to tell us that if we have a specific equipment or a specific symbol, we'll be able to do something in order to resolve something. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but let's check out what we have over here. So we can see that on this equipment card of a hatchet, we have 2 symbols over here. The upper one is gear and the bottom one is tools. So again, without doing any kind of spoilers, they will tell you that if you have a card with a specific symbol, you will be able to spend it. That means discard that equipment card or actually use it maybe a one time per test or something like that. Again, different tests have different conditions in order to have some effect. Sometimes it will be to discard maybe the last card that you have drawn from the item deck and actually take another one. I mean, there are really a lot of examples, so I'm not going to go into all of them, but just for you to know that you have the possibility to sometimes use the equipment cards if the test table has instructed you or has given you that option. Now, regarding 2 players mode, of course, again, we're talking about the cooperative mode, we're going to have this token right over here that we're going to assign to a random player at the beginning of the scenario, and that player, if the 2 players cannot reach an agreement, is going to decide what they're going to do. After that player has taken the decision, the token is simply going to pass to the other player. Now we have a few things that are going to be common to the 2 players. For example, the silver that we can see right over here, also the equipment and the item. Those are things that belong to both of the players. But if we're taking a look at these power markers over here, those things are actually individual. So if you're instructed to receive some of them, let's say that we receive 2 power markers, the players can decide together to whom that markers are going to go to. Maybe to one Mystling, they're going to receive both of these markers. Maybe they're going to split it, so each player is going to take one of these power markers. But again, that is something that is going to remain individual and it's not going to be in a common pool. So now that we know how to explore in Dragon Eclipse, let's move on to combat. When we are instructed to start combat, first of all, we'll need to prepare our battleground. So you need to open the map that they're going to instruct you to do, and please pay attention that for each map we're going to have either a possibility for 1 player or for 2 players. This explanation is only going to concern 1 player, but feel free to jump on to the next timestamp if you feel like watching combat for 2 players. So let's break down what we can see right now on our map. First of all, we're going to have our enemy that is always going to spawn in a place number 1. Our Mystling is going to spawn on number 2. This specific combat is going to be between this creature that we have over here, the Golomo, and we have over here our Mystling that is called Young Emberling. So what we need to do is to take all the cards that correspond to Golomo. Here we have the stats card. Over here we can see which enemy attack cards they're going to have. And also on the other side, we're going to have how they're going to resolve these cards. Don't worry, we'll get to it in a second. And sometimes we're actually going to be able to tame our enemy. So in that case, we're going to have sort of this card that we can see right over here. On the left side, what we can see is our own stat cards and some help cards that are going to show us the different bonus actions that we can take. Over here, we're going to have the combat deck of our Mystling. Again, I'm going to tell you how to construct it in just a few more seconds. And over here, we have the arena card that is going to give us some instructions of maybe how to deal a little bit with the different terrain, with the different spaces that we have over here. Now, when we want to construct the enemy attack deck, what we need to do is to take a look what are the symbols that we have over here. So when you're taking a look, we have 2 of each type. So we have these 2 squares, two triangles, and two of these, I don't know, call it however you want to call it. So after we have taken the cards, and pay attention please that this deck is actually only for the one player, and I'm saying it because in the next segment of the video, we're going to talk about the same attack cards that actually have two players icon on them. So now we're going to take all of these cards, we're going to give them a good shuffle, and we're going to place them right over here. After we've done that, we can see that we have something that is called special ability on number 3. So again, we're going to take a universal marker and we're going to place it on position number 3 right over here at the top of the arena. Now, our own combat deck is actually built from two types of cards. The first one is the starting deck, sort of. Those are starting cards that you'll be instructed to take at the beginning of the game during setup. Actually, it's super comfortable with the way that Awakened Realms have broken down actually how to unpack all of the game that you're receiving. So we're going to have some cards that are going to be with this letter S at the top right corner of the card. That is one of the starting cards. And we're going to have cards that are uniquely for our own Mystling. So again, we're going to take all of them, we're going to give them a good shuffle, and then we're going to start drawing cards, starting with the 4th position that we have right over here. So the first card is going to go right over here, and then drawing the others. Now, sometimes fighting specific enemies, they're going to have some special effects and some things that we'll be able to do, but don't forget also to check if there is a maximum number of tokens they will be able to place with that special ability. In our case, this enemy has the maximum of 5, so I've prepared here 5 tokens from what they've said, and again, they're going to resolve it in different ways. We're going to see it as we go. Now, these two cards that I have over here, you're not going to have them in each combat, of course. Those are just one item and one equipment card that I have randomly taken just to show you how to interact with them as well. When we're starting combat, we're always going to play first, unless, of course, other instructions were given to us, and we have a certain procedure that we need to resolve. First of all, we'll be able to use a bonus action. That is, of course, optional. So again, let me draw your attention to what we have over here. We have universal bonus actions that is going to be most likely with most of the Mystlings. So if we're going to spend one power marker, we'll be able to dash, that is to move. Don't worry, we're going to get there. Also, we'll be able to prepare, that means to discard one card, and then we can draw. Also, we're going to have a specific elemental bonus action, and on top of that, we're going to have a special ability bonus action. So I don't want to go really too much into it, but just for you to know that there are different bonus actions that you will be able to do, but each bonus action will be able to perform only one time per turn. So that means that if right now I'm going to do the dash, the next time that I will be able to do the bonus action, I will not be able to do it again. So since we don't have at all power markers, we will not be able to activate them right now. The next thing that we do is to resolve an action card. Those are these cards that we have right over here. Every time that I want to use one of them, I need to choose them, then gain the number of power markers that we can see on top and resolve their effect. After that, we can again use the bonus action, and after that, we're going to draw a new card after sliding all the cards to the right. After that, of course, it's going to be the enemy's turn. So let's just see a little bit how does it work. Let's say that I want to start accumulating these power markers, and I'm going to use this card that we have over here. So this card that is called Flame Burst says deal 2 damage, pay attention to this icon that we have over here, to each opponent in range 2. And then we're going to do 2 more damage for every 4 power markers that we have, although we don't need to discard them. So if I decided to do that, we can see that the range over here is 2. You already understand that if the enemies are adjacent, that is going to be the range of 1. So I'm going to choose using this card. 3 power markers I'm going to take from the main supply, and we're going to place them in our playing area. And then we're going to resolve what we have over here. So again, since we have range of 2, we're going to do 2 damage. Pay attention that the enemy has 2 types of shields, just like we have. The first one that we have actually over here is a shield from a melee attack, let's call it like that. So that is if we would have chosen to do a normal attack. The other shield that we have is from a different kind of damage. That is why I told you to pay attention to this icon that we have on the flame burst. Since in any case both of the values over here are 0, they will not be able to defend themselves at all. Later when I'm going to show you combat with 2 players, you're going to see how very quickly these stats can change. So let's place this card right over here, and the enemy is going to take 2 damage that we're going to take from the main supply and just place it right over here on their card. Now that we have finished resolving a card, we can use a bonus action. But now we do have 3 power markers, so that is going to give us some options. So just for the example, you guys, let's say that I want to discard one of the power markers in order to do the dash. That means to move. To move, basically, we need to take a look at the speed that we have over here of our Mystling and then move that number of adjacent places. In our case, we have 2. We can choose if we want to move 1 or 2. That is, of course, up to 2. So let's say that we want to move 1 over here. After that, we're simply going to slide all the cards to the right, and we're going to draw 1 more card from our deck, placing it right over here. Now, before I'm going to move to the enemy's turn, I do want to show you another thing that we have. Let's say that instead of doing that, actually let's take it back. I would have chosen to do something else with the power marker. So let's bring back our Mystling to this position. I'm going to use this power marker actually in order to do something that is called prepare. In our case, we can discard 1 card. So I'm going to choose to discard this card that we have right over here. And let me tell you why. So this card that is called Offensive Stance, if this card is going to be in the discard pile, then we're going to receive +1 to our attack. Let's read it. It says this passive effect applies as long as this card is on the top of the discard pile. So that is great. Just pay attention that when I'm discarding without resolving the top effect that we have over here, I'm not receiving any amount of power markers. So we're going to place this card right over here. And now what I'm going to do is to slide all the cards to the rightmost position. And that means that I can draw 2 more cards just like this. Now that we finished our turn, it's going to be the enemy's turn. So what basically we need to do, of course, if we haven't shuffled this deck, that is the time to do it. I can't remember if I did it or not. But what we need to do is to take the top card, flip it to the other side, and place it in the first position. Now we're going to go back to the card that we have over here, and we're going to see what is the specific effect that they're going to do. In our case, it says to place 1 quake marker in range of 2, and then attack and then rush. So let's understand a little bit what's going on. So when we need to place one of these quake markers, basically what it's going to say that it's in range 2, and we need to choose the place that is the closest to our Mystling, including our own position. In our case, that is super easy. It means that we're going to add this quake marker right over here to this position. Now, if you want to understand a little bit more what this quake marker is going to do, we can read the passive section that we have on this card. And it says, Golome has +1 shield for each quake marker within range of 1. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Let's continue resolving what we have. Then it says attack, but I remind you that a normal attack has to be adjacent. So right now our enemy cannot attack us because we are in range 2. And then it says rush. Rush means that they're going to try and move towards us as much as possible, of course, with the limitation of speed that we can see on their card. That is actually on the opposite of retreat. That would have meant that they're going to try and get away from us as much as possible. So right now, since this location and this one are pretty much the same, we as the player can choose where they are going to go. So let's say that I've decided to place them right over here. Now pay attention, going back to the passive. If we decide to attack them, they are going to receive a +1 shield because they are in range of 1 from this quake token that we have just placed. The next thing that I need to check if there are any enemy attack cards right over here on top of the special ability of our enemy. We, of course, do not have because that was just the first round. So we're going to move on to our turn again. And we're going to continue this combat until one of a few things happen. Sometimes we'll simply need to kill our enemy. Sometimes we'll even be able to tame them. But in any case, we always need to consult the arena card that we have over here to see at what point we'll need to go back to the journal and read another text. So let's talk a little bit about the taming that we have right over here. We have here 3 conditions. Again, Don't want to spoil it too much for you, even though that you can read the text, but what we can see over here that we'll need to fulfill 3 conditions in order to actually tame our enemy. One of the conditions, for example, is to bring their health into 5 or less. The other one is to do something while we are situated on this kind of place with this icon, and etc. Again, guys, we're going to have here many possibilities with many enemies and taming cards, but in any case, every time that we're fulfilling one of these conditions, we're going to take one of the universal markers and we're going to place them right over here to signify that we have completed that task. Now, you guys, something that I a little bit forgot to mention earlier in the video, but let's talk about the significance of actually taming a new Mystling that we're meeting along the way. So I've taken the same card that we have seen before of the Golomo, and let's say that we have managed actually to answer to all of these conditions and actually tame that Mystling. The importance of it is actually that the Golomo Mystling will be added to our Mystlings that we will be able to use in a later scenario. So that is something that is pretty cool to add more variety maybe to your gameplay, or actually have more exciting opportunities with playing different Mystlings, because in a later scenario you will actually be able to choose with which Mystling or Mystlings you are going to play. Now, moving on, basically we're going to continue combat. Don't forget that we have here cards that we'll be able to use. So again, we simply need to follow the text that we have on it. In this equipment card that is called Battle of Flames, during combat we'll be able to discard this card in order to deal 7 damage to an opponent in any range. So that is kind of strong. Pay attention to that. And let's say that we're moving with the combat a little bit. So in the next round of the enemy, this is what they're going to resolve. And then in the third time, we're going to have something like this. We're going to resolve the effect that we have. And then before moving on to our turn, pay attention that now we do have a card that is on top of number 3. And we need to go back and see what is the special ability. So when we're looking at it, we can see that each opponent gains 3 damage for each Quake token within range 2 of that opponent. So that means that right now, since this Quake token is in range of 2, of course, and needless to say that as the combat is going to prolong, we're going to add more of these Quake tokens. But in our situation right now, when we need to resolve that special ability, what happens is that our Mystling is going to take 2 damage, unless of course we would have had the shield right over here. That would prevented some of the damage. Now, in case it wasn't clear until now, every time that we need to take some type of damage, we're going to reduce from that the shield of the creature that was being attacked. If we would have had right now 1 shield right over here, and we need to take 2 damage of this specific type, then 2 minus 1, that is of course only 1 damage. After we have resolved the special effect, what we'll need to do is to take these cards and simply place them in the discard pile that we have right over here and continue the combat normally. Pay attention that the moment that we have drawn the last card from the enemy attack deck, and right now over here we have 0 cards, that is something that is going to affect us, and we're going to receive 1 fatigue card that is going to be added to our own deck. We'll not be able to get rid of it unless we're going to resolve something in the journal. But what's important is that we have a limited number of fatigue cards, that is 5, and after we have taken all of them, each time that we'll need to take fatigue, but there are no more fatigue cards, we will need to take 5 damage into our own Mystling. And after that, of course, we're going to simply take all the attack cards, shuffle them again, and continue the combat if that is necessary. Now, a few more things that I want to draw your attention to. Sometimes they're going to tell us that if the Mystling they're attacking is actually from a specific elemental, then they're going to do something more. In our example, if the Mystling would have been this type of element, then they would have attacked 1 more time, but since we are a fire Mystling, that is not going to happen. Let's talk about last few keywords that we have over here during combat. One of them is to trigger. When we need to trigger something, that basically means that we're going to choose one of the cards that we have. We're going to trigger its effect without receiving the power markers that are on top of them, and then we're going to discard that card. So I hope that you kind of understand that there are really a lot of tactical decisions that you can take with discarding cards or triggering some of them, just because we have a lot of cards with a passive effect that are going to come into play if that specific card is on top of the discard pile. Another term that we have is to drain. So sometimes you will be able to do that, and that means that the amount of damage you did to your enemy, you will be able to heal yourself. Now pay attention that it's not the number of damage you're supposed to do, it's the number of damage that the enemy is actually receiving. Because if you need to do 3 damage and they have a shield of 1, that means that you dealt to them 2 damage, and that is the amount of damage that you're going to heal. Now, of course, winning a classic combat means that we have annihilated our enemy. That means that they have damage equal to or more than the number of health that they have. Losing is going to be exactly the same, but on the opposite towards our Mystling. But pay attention also that we have this possibility with Tame. Again, you guys, in any case, always consult the arena card that we have placed on the right side of the arena. And with that, guys, that is simply how you're going to perform combat in a Dragon Eclipse. Let's move on actually to combat with 2 players that is going to be a little bit different. So what you can see right now is kind of the setup. Again, I try to condense it a little bit so you'll be able to see everything pretty much on your screen. And we can see that we have the arena that is ready for 2 players. That is the same arena, but with some modifications for 2 players. Now, over here we still have the young Emberling as one of the Mystlings, and we have another one that is called young Iceling. On top of that, we're going to have again the enemy spawning in space number 1. One of the Mystlings is going to be number 2, and the second Mystling is going to be right over here on number 3. On top of that, we'll need to assign this token that we have that is called the Taunt token to one of the Mystlings, doesn't really matter to whom, and that is going to help us understand which Mystling actually our enemy is going to attack. Now, on top of that, when we're playing at 2 players, the journal is going to instruct us which major corruption card we'll need to add to our enemy. So let's say that in this case, they said to add the major corruption A. That is what we can see over here. And again, you can see that we have this 2-player marker. What we're simply going to do is to take this card and slide it at the bottom right over here, so we can see what are the stats that are going to be added to that enemy. In our case, the shield from ranged attacks is going to stay 0, but from normal attacks it's going to be +1. Then we're going to have 50% more life, so we can see that we have +12. The attack is going to be +2, so that is 4 damage every time they're going to attack us. And the speed is actually going to stay the same, so only 1 speed. Now, basically, the player with the Taunt token is going to play first, so that stays exactly the same as we have seen before. You're going to choose a card, special ability, etc. Then it's going to be the turn of the next Mystling to play their turn. They're going to play exactly as before, but pay attention that every time that a Mystling is going to deal damage to the enemy, they're going to receive the Taunt token. So let's say that the young Herberling has done damage to our enemy, they're going to stay with the Taunt token, but then it's going to be the turn of the young Iceling, and they did damage as well. So now they're going to take the Taunt token, which also means that after the enemy is going to be activated, when it's going to be our turn again to play, it's going to be the player with the Taunt token, so we're going to switch it, right? It's going to be the Iceling that is going to be the first player. Now, another major change that we have over here is regarding the enemy attack cards. So again, when we're looking over here, we can see the same cards that we need to prepare, but pay attention that we're going to take it from the deck that has actually the symbol of 2 players, like we can see over here. Now, because the cards are different, we have 4 cards of each type. We'll need to shuffle, okay, if we have here only the squares, we'll need to shuffle them and then randomly choose how many cards that we've seen over here. In our case, it's 2. And we're going to do the same thing from the 2 other decks that we have. Again, because we have 2 cards from each symbol. So that means that after we have shuffled all of these 6 cards, right, we have 3 types of cards times 2, that's 6. Then we're going to place it face up over here. So this is going to be our track. Let's push these cards a little bit just so I can explain how it works. So we do know what is the attack that they're going to do, right? We can anticipate already, but we don't know which Mystling they're going to attack. So when it's their turn, we're going to take this card, slide it to the first position right over here. And now we can see with this icon now that we have created between the 2 cards, which Mystling it's going to attack. In our case, it's going to be the Mystling that has the taunt token, that is the young Iceling. Then again later we know what is the attack that they're going to do, but we don't know who they're going to do it to. So we're going to again take this card, place it right over here, and now actually we can see that it has the keyword other. That means that they're going to attack the Mystling without the taunt token. So it's kind of like a two-edged sword, right? We do know what is the next attack that they're going to perform, but we don't know which Mystling they're going to attack. The rest of the combat is going to be exactly the same, either if it's going to be with a taming card or with winning or losing. Again, always consult the arena card. And with that, guys, I think that we have covered basically the main things that we have over here without any, let's call it, major spoils in Dragon Eclipse. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you learned something new or saw something that you like. Take care, and I'll see you next time.